Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So I wanted to go through one of my least expensive rigs, the Friedman Mini BEOD head, some of my favorite I-set pedals, and also the Mosky, the ultimate budget board, and going into what I'm thinking is maybe one of the ultimate budget standalone little heads, you know, without USB and without built-in all this or all that. That Friedman BE Mini, the Mini BE, however you want to pronounce it, it's just an awesome little head. There it is right above me. Now, the thing about that Friedman, it is a heavy duty head. It's high gain. Okay, so right now I have the gain all the way down. I have the tight switch in the middle, and I have the cut switch all the way up. So it's cutting, it's reducing the most, I'm getting the least amount of gain out of it that I can. As you bring down that cut switch, as you put it into the up position, it kind of darkens it a little bit more, makes it a little less present, a little less bitey. And then the tight, I have it in the middle position. To demonstrate one of the coolest things that I figured out with this little pedal board here and this head is kind of how to get a little more use out of this Friedman. I have it set to the lowest gain and it's still beefy as heck. How can you clean this up? Well, you can use your guitar volume. But that's still pretty dirty. So I have this I-set compressor set to the full pint, so full compression settings. And then I have the level all the way down and the sensitivity at about 10 o'clock. And I have the tone at around 2 o'clock. So watch what happens when I turn this on. And now what I'm going to be doing is really just reducing the output of the guitar. It's not going to be pushing the full signal of the guitar out. I'm going to bring it down some. And it's just going to help clean up this amp. So you can hear it just kind of makes it quieter going into a gainy amp. So it's going to just overall hit and saturate that front end less, and it's going to give you a cleaner signal. And that's not how I would normally run a compressor. But in sitting here thinking about how we could get the most out of this small board, that does give me an option. I can have kind of like a clean channel and a dirty channel on the amp. Especially once you throw the volume knob into the picture. The volume knob really obviously helps clean up the guitar signal even more, send less out there. The compressor's then grabbing that signal and shooting it back into the amp at kind of a squished volume, you know, and it's just evening it all out. And then you compensate with the level, which is just, it's still, that amp is just going to hear it. So this wouldn't necessarily work going into like a real clean amp. You know, this is just going to really just make you quieter. So, but having a dirty amp that's already, you know, pretty saturated, even at its least gainy setting, that's one way to kind of get a little something extra out of this. Normally what I would do with the compressor is take the volume up. I'd probably run it at half, the half pint or a little less compression, and then bring the sustain in and then dial that tone back instead of being up here at the 2 o'clock in order to help kind of brighten up the guitar going into that amp. You know, listen to what happens when I have the volume down on it and I use the guitar and I kind of play with that tone knob. It helps kind of just make it sound more like a guitar. And I wouldn't normally run it that bright. You know, I wouldn't normally run a compressor that bright. Just generally, the compression is giving me a little too much brightness, and I back off the tone a touch. So that's a way to run this completely different. And now some of the other sounds that I have, reverb, and then on this guy, I know, trigger warning, people don't like these pedals set sideways. Oh well, get over it, it's my board, and it's my budget board. It's powered by USB brick, as you saw at the very beginning, and I have a 9-volt USB outlet plugged into it that's then feeding a couple of pass-throughs so that I have, gosh, 12 pedals in all hooked up here. This is the most budget rig that I have. Let's average them all to be about $20, except the Mosky's like, what, 50 to 60 bucks or so. And the only thing that's really a little redundant are some of the tones that I can get out of this distortion and the Mosky's heavier distortion. But just running this into that, I found just a million really fun tones to explore. And I'm going to just kind of bring my compressor back to how I'd normally run this and just set this up normal. What I have is guitar into tuner. And this iSet tuner has a great display, real easy to see, you know, when you're locked in from almost any position. I do like that. Mutes the signal, which is also a plus for stage. Going right out of the tuner into the compressor, out of the compressor into a lower drive, overdrive, and then into a heavier distortion. And then that hits this phaser. So I have a couple of gain stages and then a phaser. And then I'm going into a couple of more gain stages, because out of this phaser, it goes into the Mosky and hits the 2 drives there. And you have, what, a Sir Riot and then a Prince of Tone here. And then I have the loop on. Out of this loop, it's going right into the front end of the Friedman, plugged right into the input. Okay, so I'm sending from all these distortions, this phaser, and then more distortions, directly to the distortion of the amplifier, right? So it's stackable, easily stackable, especially if you keep that gain down. Going into there, the send of the Friedman is coming back and hitting just a little patch cable I have in the back that then hits this chorus. And then there's a tremolo. Comes back up out of the tremolo into the gate, which I probably would do a little bit differently. I probably would have the tremolo after the gate generally, but just to do this and have the cables all run the right way, then it hits the gate, then it's hitting a delay. So this Mosky has a delay and a reverb we'll hit in just a second, but I have a really light delay out of this one, and then the Mosky has a bigger delay. So out of the gate into the delay, out of the delay into the return of the Mosky, and then another delay, another reverb, and then a level booster, a volume booster. This I use to get louder, like if I'm playing over a loop, or if I've laid a rhythm down, I just need to get a little bit louder, you know, that kind of a thing. Volume booster. So not really making a difference in gain, not grinding it anymore. So I just want to take whatever palette I've created with stacked gains and then make it louder. That's what I use, is that booster. I'm just going to kind of run through some of the sounds of it. It's a lot of fun to just sit here and mess with this thing. And it's my best budget board yet. It's small. It's a lot of fun into any of my heads, mono. It's completely mono board. If you want to hear me run through my wet, dry, wet rig, if you'd like to hear just a much bigger breakdown of that kind of thing, let me know in the comments below. Wet, dry, wet. That's all you have to say. WDW, whatever. And then you could be out, you know. But if you're enjoying this, please consider hitting a like button and let me know that this is the kind of stuff I should be doing, and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. All right, let's check out the board and the Friedman Mini BE.